following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Thank you. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but there's a lot going on in downtown. The streets have been torn up, a park's under construction. There is just a lot, but there seems to be this buzz. I don't know if it's just me, maybe because I'm so close to it, but I have a lot of people saying there's just a lot of momentum. There just seems to be something that's going on. And it started making me think, well, what makes something go? Like, does it just happen, or is there really something behind it? And so I started thinking about something that just sort of took off, and it was this. So my brother, I was sitting on the couch in my home, and my brother sends me this text. And it's him, he was on Fripp Island with my brother-in-law, and they send me this, and they're like, we're out here fishing, and these storm clouds came out of nowhere. And we were terrified what we're doing. So being the good brother that I was like, I didn't ask him if he was okay. I just said, I got to get this on social media. Like, this is what you do with things like this. So that's what I did. I tweeted it out. Check out these storm clouds taken by my brother at Fripp Island. And I hit tweet. And so it went out there. And I have sent 34,000 tweets over the life of my Twitter account. I have never had anything like this happen to my Twitter account. All of a sudden, just these tweets, retweets, pops up, likes, everything started taking off. And I'm texting my brother, I was like, you're famous, like it's going all over, it's going crazy. What in the world is happening here? And the next thing I know, I was like, this is incredible. The next thing I know, this guy, Storm Chaser 4850, he retweets it. Look at this, 23,000 followers. And then they're retweeting it to their tens and hundreds and thousands of followers. So I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And like, I'm following this, this is crazy. Then the next thing I know, BuzzFeed Storm. Now this is serious because they have like a check by their box or something that makes them look official. And so I was like, 64,000 followers, that's double the guy before. And then these people are sharing it with all their friends. I was like, this is crazy. And then the mother lode, the Weather Channel. So then they're like, it's not just the Weather Channel, it's Weather Channel Breaking. So Weather Channel Breaking, and they have over 450,000 followers that they shared this with, and it's taking off. I was like, this is awesome. And this is all happening in like 30 minutes. It's going crazy. And then this guy, I don't know who this guy is, but he tweets me, would love to use your photos on CBS, all platforms. This guy's in New York and worked for CBS this morning. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And my brother sends me, he was like, how do we make money off of this? I was like, I think that ship has sailed by the fact that we have put it out there. But it was just really intriguing to think about how quickly and how fast something went from just a photo to just taking off. And when I think about our downtown and everything that's happening, it helped me to think about a book that I own and I've read. I own a lot of books. I've not read all of them. But one that sticks out is Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. And it's a really, really fascinating book. And he really has he's talking about why does something tip? Why does it take off? Why does it become the cool thing that everybody has to do or every place everyone has to go? And he breaks it down into sort of three theories. One such theory is the power of context. And the second one is the stickiness factor. And the third one is the law of the few. And so if you think about that, so the power of context. So think about that tweet. One of the things I didn't realize that was happening at the time is that in Atlanta, which is where the Weather Channel is headquartered, they had this huge storm that was coming through, and it was sweeping all the way down through Fripp Island. So everyone was glued to their phones, watching, waiting for tornado alerts, watching. So everyone was at the right opportunity. I had no idea. I'm sitting on my couch in my home in Cary. And so the context was really important. The next thing you think about is the stickiness factor. So what was it? I mean, the photos alone kind of grabs your attention. You know, it looks like there's danger that's there, that always catches. Plus, the cloud's pretty cool. I mean, it's a shelf cloud. I didn't know that. So you learn some things. And then the other is the rule of the few, the law of the few. That really, you don't have to get your message out to every person at one time, but if you be very selective in the people that you can get, then you can help exponentially get your message out. So you think about it. I send my tweet out, it goes to my friends, and my friends give me the courtesy like, retweet. And then it goes on to more established people who are representatives of Storm, the storm chaser guy. And so you can kind of see how all of these pieces, when they were put together, it really wasn't as random as perhaps it was, but a lot of pieces lining up. And so as we think about, you know, I want to talk about the power of the context as we look at our downtown, because it's really important to see where we have been and what has happened in order to get us to the point. So when I think about, you know, a lot of folks talk about, you know, what were some of the glory days of downtown. I think right after World War II, the 50s and the 60s was this time period where, I mean, it was just parades. This was one of the firemen's parades that we had in downtown. This was the intersection over at Walker and Chatham Street. You can see the Raleigh Savings and Loan, which is now the Little Caesars. It's the nicest looking Little Caesars now. But you can see some of these pieces that are happening. And then in the 70s, Cary began to grow out. We had a lot of factors happening with RTP coming in. Growth was taking off, and so all of our focus in downtown started moving out. And so you started to see a transition away from downtown. It was still there, and things were happening, but it wasn't happening at the same pace, and it sort of was stagnant until the 90s. And then one of the things that was really important to happen was a concerted effort from our council to say it was really important that we begin to focus on our downtown. And the town center area plan. Now, planning, it's one of those things that's not exciting really to talk about, but it's so important and valuable, because once we began to work on this in the late 90s and the early 2000s, it helped to set a vision for where downtown was going to be headed. It also was important for us to think about what do we need to put in place from a land and a zoning standpoint to be able to achieve the development that we would like to see. How do we make sure that we have those pieces? So this is kind of what this is representing. And then a few years after that, it was important for council to put, you know, for a long time we talked about downtown. We didn't have a singular person that was really focused on downtown. So they hired the first downtown development manager, and then I was able to come on as the second downtown development manager. And it's really been a way for us to be able to push and to champion downtown. And we established in this little shaded area here, you can see that looks a little bit like the state of Texas, is our business improvement district. And we were able to put certain incentives in place to be able to help with that and concentrate. And that's really North Academy to South Academy, and then East Roundabout to West Roundabout. And then fast forward even to the Imagine Cary, where we're just wrapping that up, being able to look at that, which is another step in seeing, because what's happened is that we don't really have the ability to keep growing out anymore. There's just not the land that we used to have, so we have to begin to redevelop, and we have to do that well, and that's a lot of what Imagine Cary is doing, and that's Cary-wide, but downtown plays a key and important part within that. So you see the shift of happening in the context and the foundation that was laid. I mean, some of this stuff was 16, 20, 25 years ago that people were beginning to think about that to be able to get us to the point where we're at today. One other piece that's a factor within all of this is talking about transit and transportation and the Wake Transit Plan. I mean, there's the potential that with bus rapid transit, you could have downtown Raleigh and downtown Cary linked between those two. And if you can see the picture behind me, shows a little bit of what sort of a bus rapid transit. On the left, it shows just sort of how a median was here. On the right, you can see how they've put more of a bus rapid transit stop in. So it functions a little bit more like a light rail system, and then it has a more established stop. It usually you can access at the same grade. And in most cases, you can enter and exit in the same way like a light rail system, where you don't have to pay at every single time you get on. Once you have your card, you can get in. But this is important to think about these connections. It just lays the foundation for the context that we're in. So the second part is thinking about the stickiness factor. Now, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and stickiness is usually not a positive connotation when I'm thinking about that. It's usually syrup or something that's gotten on something. But when we're thinking about the stickiness, we're thinking about what is it that makes that connection? What is it that brings you back to something? What is it that makes that emotional tie? And there's a lot of these pieces that are happening. Just take a look at this picture for a moment. I use this photo a lot, and this is stickiness factor buy-in, because people are sitting outside, they're having a good time in downtown. Most of them we probably don't even know, unless you might see yourself in that picture. But you can see the same thing down in front of Crosstown, where people are sitting outside and they're being able to make the connection, something that's tangible and real, and that they want to. The other thing is that the cars that go by, they go, "What's that? I never seen that before. There are people outside after 5 o'clock. That's great." And they talk in a high-pitched voice like that when they drive, which is really fascinating. So we've got the area that's down where the park's being built. I want to talk about a few of these pieces because there's so much that's happening here that's really getting a lot of our attention right now, and what's exciting. So you've got, in the library, when the parking deck, the park's being built here, the second phase of the park, the Midtown Inn is here. It's built despite this aerial photo that shows that it's still under construction, and some more development opportunities. So I want to dive in just a little bit so you can see some of the progress that's even happened. So Town of Cary is working with Wake County, and we're building a regional library. The county's building that. And so the council's looked at several design concepts. So don't take anything as exactly what it's going to look like, but there's several design concepts that they have right now, all very similar, but a 2-story library. If you were standing at the front steps here and you were looking straight out, you would be looking right down Dry Avenue towards Harrison. And then this particular perspective is if you were standing on the north side, all the windows. So what would be to the immediate right over here would be the first phase of where the park's being built, and then out into the front is where the second phase of the park is. So you would have these nice views to be able to look out. And then underneath, you've got a platform that can get you to the parking lot, and underneath will be some public restrooms that can go in that area. So still working and finalizing those pieces, but we can see where this is going. The library brings hundreds of thousands of people downtown every year. It's a place where you tutor and you go and you have story time. It's a place where you can just go and work and get on your laptop. Believe it or not, you can check out books there too. So, there's just a lot of things. It's really becoming a community anchor for us. And then behind that is the parking, 350 space parking deck. And this is what's really cool, is the artists that we've selected and just their thought process that they went through to think about. So you've got this large face of a deck that's going to be looking into the future phase of a park, and everyone's going, "Oh, I don't want to look at a deck." So how do we, and so they started to look at their surrounding environments and all those pieces, and they could see that the natural trees, and how could they emulate those, and how could they do this with texturized brick to be able to make it pop and come out, so that from a distance you can see a little bit of this model, how it could be like this really cool nature scene that's running. And then in the evening they noticed that they could see all the fireflies that are out there, and you could see how at night, using light and pieces that come, it can pop and can really be a dynamic piece. So we're getting parking, which is much needed in downtown, to be able to help everything that's in this area, but then being able to be sensitive and thinking about, how do we approach this deck? So this is under construction of the first phase of the park. It's 1.5 acres. To give you a little bit of a sense of where things are, In the front portion is where the fountain is going, and then just to the back you can see a little bit of where there's a little bit of a step up, almost like a little overlook area off the back. And then we'll have the ability to be able to pull the stage. If you've ever been to any of our concerts or your Lazy Days, you saw we have big stages that we can pull in to be able to have concerts and music. Excited to see that come, and all of these things sort of wrapping up, similar with Academy Street being in this fall, is what we're shooting for with those. One of the pieces I often overlook, and I don't mean to overlook it, but when you think about what's happening all around here, is the Cary Arts Center. I mean, it's still very new, but considering how many things have opened since then, sometimes it doesn't feel as new. But it's this wonderful facility that brings over 100,000 people into downtown, and a tremendous performance space, and just so many classes that are happening within that. So you can begin to see that with a library and an art center, and all of the pieces that are happening, the park in this area, that it's starting to bring people down, and it's going to be a tremendous node. Academy Street, oh, it's good to see this picture. We're getting there, and it's starting to look so good, where you can see these sidewalks that are going, I don't know if you can even remember walking on those little 5-foot sidewalks that were like this, and to see them much wider now, which is great, and the road with the pavers in the completed section. Park is back to two-way, all the way down to Dry, and you can go from Walker over to Harrison, all the way through Park. So we're making progress with that. This is an important investment in our downtown. It's one that's going to be there for many years, and it's not been fun to get through. I know that, and it's been very difficult. And I appreciate, all those who have driven through and all of those businesses that are down there. But it will be done very soon, and we'll see the decorative benches that are coming in. The ones that they have, there's about 12 of those that will be throughout different rooms. There will be about 38 regular benches, so some of you are going, how do you sit on that, for a long period of time? And then there'll also be movable tables and chairs. So it's important to be able to have a wide range of seating options, especially because you never know what size group you're going to be in when you're downtown. So you want to put some things together within that. As you come back in this building here on the 3rd floor, we've talked about before that we have a co-working space that's within that, but Cofounders Capital and then the Cary Cofounders Lab. They finished up about 1 year, and the whole goal was to say, in the triangle, there's so much entrepreneurship and startups that are happening, and there seems to be a lot of that here in Cary. What should we do, or what could we do that's unique to Cary? So we didn't want to do something that was just to be like everyone else, and so we worked with David Gardner, who is a local Cary guy, and he's known as sort of the Mark Cuban of the Triangle. And within the first year, they've mentored 368 entrepreneurs. They've hosted or they've spoken at over 46 events. They've invested in 11 local startups. They've deployed $2.5 million. They've leveraged an additional $27 million, and they have $1 million in current term sheets and like a partridge in a pear tree. There's so much that they are doing out of this 1,700 square foot space up on the 3rd floor. And it's really neat to see what's happening and bringing people to downtown and the creative ideas that are happening within that. Midtown Square, the one building that's under construction, about 25,000 square feet, should be completed in November. They're a little over 55% or so occupied, or not occupied, but signed leases within that. But they announced on the corner there's a couple of retail spaces. So Pizzeria Felici is a wood or oven-fired pizza that'll be going in, which will be a great addition to the food scene in downtown. And you can see as well on the existing, we have a facade program, and they've changed the facades and they've updated those. So you also have these nice walkways, so they'll be able to have some seating outside, and encouraging to see change that's happening. This was an exciting announcement to make. This is on the corner of Chatham and Harrison. The Sorrel building is also, I think it was a Winn-Dixie at one point, a grocery store. And have La Farm Bakery, which is a great staple in that we know over in Preston. They purchased the building. They're going to be putting a full production bakery into this space. They're also going to be doing a retail bakery and cafe that'll kind of come across the front. And then there'll be additional retail space. So we want to be able to attract more of the similar in the food world that's happening. So that's exciting in and of itself, but this corner is such an important corner because if you've walked this portion, you kind of get to that intersection and you're like, ooh, do I want to go across? And sometimes, you know, it's tough navigating traffic, but it will begin to see things moving down and from a development standpoint. You know, when we think about the stickiness factor and the things that bring us back, events play a key place. We just finished up Lazy Days. Came down both days, which was really cool to celebrate. I mean, number one, to have an event that lasts 40 years is pretty incredible. But then to have it in 2 days and to be able to celebrate it, it was great. And to see all the different people that were downtown, it creates those memories. It's fun to see, you know, all the traditions of that starts. My daughter Anna asked me, said, "Daddy, why is Santa Claus starting Lazy Days?" And I said, "That's just the town crier." And he joked about it, but it was nice to know that that wasn't a joke. She really thought that it was Santa Claus. It was a pretty good event for her. But to be able to see these events that are coming downtown, you know, and then the collaboration of events. So there's some the town's taking the lead on, and there's some that, you know, Bond Brothers got together with one of the run clubs in Raleigh, and they said, let's try to break the Guinness World Record for the most number of people to run in flip-flops. And that's silly and crazy, but they did it, and we have a world record for downtown Cary. Yes. But those are the things that create these fun, weird little things that are happening in our downtown and that keep bringing you back, and they want to break the record again next year, so we'll see what happens. Brew had just opened when we did our first TED Talks here. But what's been neat to watch this is really becoming a third place. It's becoming this place where you're seeing people meet and just hang out. There were a group of us that met there last Friday. We felt like the old guys that were just, hey, we got to have our coffee and sit around and talk about, the old days of Cary, you know? And it was just fun to be able to gather and to be there and to see people working. And just the evolution of what's happening with these types of spaces. And then we're seeing things happening where people are coming and they're working out. A lot of, you know, just in the lifestyle is happening. So from Hustle Fitness Studio just opened to Whistle Stop Nutrition to Circle Yoga, Smiling Circle Yoga, to Iron Tribe. There are all these places that are popping up in downtown that you are like, where is this and what are they doing? And just part of that, making those connections with people and making it a place that you're in downtown. So the last one, we talked about the power of context, and we talked about the stickiness factor, and the last one is the law of the few. And he really highlights that there are 3 different types of people. There are mavens, and mavens are sort of the brainy smurfs. They're the people that know a lot of stuff. If you need to buy a television, you know the person to call, and they will tell you the best TV to go out and to buy right now because they just know. That's them. Then you have the connectors. These are the people that know everyone. It's hard to go anywhere with them because they run into someone that they know everywhere they go, and it's a little bit annoying because you can't get anything done because they have to stop and talk. And then there are the folks that are the salesmen. They're the men and the women that you know they could sell you sand in the desert. I mean, they just have that gift to be able to you know, just to do, convince you of what you need to do. And when I think about our downtown, there's so many different groups and people that are in this. So our town council is definitely a key piece in that. And really because they are so committed to seeing what's happening in our downtown. Plus they're talking about it as they go out and say, hey, talk to Ted about what's going on and happening in downtown. Other groups like the Heart of Cary Association, I mean, they have been around for many, many years and really started for that whole purpose. And they meet monthly and in the evenings to be able to talk about and to share what's happening in downtown. And then I think about the Chamber. The Chamber plays an incredible role. I mean, Kyle Greer's role, he and I work together very closely, but just giving the opportunities at chamber events to be able to update to their group about what's happening. We even planned a trip to Greenville in the past to be able to just go focus and look at downtowns. And so there's a lot of commitment that's happening within that. The two photos in the middle kind of represent two other groups, and that is the residents, Sheila Ogle, and who's also in the business, and then the Ashworths. There are so many business owners and residents. I mean, and again, these are representative. It's not just to say these are the only folks, but the residents, I mean, who best knows a place than the people who live here and who open their business here? They see it through a lot of different lenses and through a lot of different ways. But they are telling everyone, you know, when they say, oh, I don't want to go downtown because of the road, they say, come on, you know, we got to keep doing it. It'll be over soon. And then, you know, the last one I think about in this category is George Jordan and Jordan Gussenhoven, who represent sort of the development that's happening and the developers. They fit a lot of categories, but they have the long-term family connections and they're vested in what's happening in downtown. And they really want to see it happen and go. And if they're willing to make significant investments, and that says a lot, and they share a lot with all those pieces that are happening. And then, you know, what happens is that all of these things begin to snowball, because as these stories begin to get told, then the media picks them up and they share those stories and they tell those stories, and it moves out and along with that. You know, when I think about all of the, you know, those final pieces of the few, I mean, you in the room here represent that. I mean, you've chosen to come out tonight to be able to just listen and to know what's going on. And then you're going out and telling people you've made your own personal investments in this. So when we think about all of these pieces coming together, I'm not saying that we're at the tipping point yet. We're getting there. I think all of those conditions are right, and we're continuing to move forward within that. And I'm excited to see what's next and what's coming in downtown. Thank you.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.